Games of Blitz, where I play mystery games and talk about game design and sometimes Sherlock Holmes. And you may notice that I didn't say I play Sherlock Holmes games, and that's because changing things up a bit. To be honest, I started looking ahead to where Nemesis is going, and to be honest, it's more the same. And I was not looking forward to yet more really obtuse puzzles. Some are okay, but that was just, it was a lot, and I was not looking forward to playing it. So I was like, you know what, why am I gonna keep playing the game? Oh, can you guys hear the audio? I'm sorry. Let me mute that there for you. I'm still kind of figuring all this OBS stuff out. But yeah, no, I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't looking forward to it, and it's like, why am I doing this if I'm playing a game I'm having fun with? Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Gabriel Knight Sins of the Fathers, specifically the 20th Anniversary Edition. Because we talked about it in previous chats, it is the 16th best ever adventure game according to a specific poll. I'm trying to dig up the reference now. Adventure Gamers named it as the 60th best ever adventure game, and it's frankly it's a decent, really good mystery game. So it's about contemporaries to Serrated Scalpel, but we're playing a 20th anniversary updated version. Although the actual design should be pretty close to that, so it'd be an interesting blend of seeing 90s era adventure design combined with how that got updated. So I've actually not played this edition of it. I played the original 93 version. I have not played this version of it yet, so I'm going in completely blind. Although I have played the original game, so I'm probably going to remember some bits and not remember others. Also, I haven't played it in a while, so I'm probably going to forget some of it as well. So I am prepared for, our friends, the walkthrough. But if you are not familiar with Gabriel Knight, as I mentioned, that's a 1993 point-and-click adventure game. It was written, designed, and directed by Jane Jensen and published by Sierra Online. It is the first of 3 games. I want to play the one. The second one is a full motion video, which is dicey. And the third one just hasn't really aged well in terms of the graphics. The original game actually had some fantastic voice actors: Tim Curry, Mark Hamill, Michael Dorn, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. So I mean, it was actually surprisingly star-studded cast for 1993. I believe this has been new voice actors for this edition, so we'll see how they kind of pair up. But Tim Curry doing a questionable Cajun accent is just really delightful. So if you if you want to play the original edition, I highly recommend it. So yeah, and I see that the Onyx Path has accidentally bought me a copy of Dagger of Amun-Ra. So thank you for that very much, and I'll definitely put that in queue after this. Like I said, I'm going to probably get back to playing Sherlock Holmes games, but frankly, I've between the 3 I've played for this stream, and I played 2 back to back before it, so I played 5 games kind of in a row for most of 2020. So I figure a couple of mystery games to kind of cleanse the palate. Then I'll probably go back to some of the later Frogwares games because there's some really interesting stuff happening in the last 5 to 6 years of Frogwares games and getting us ready for eventually Chapter 1, which has been announced a few weeks ago. So. Oh, actually, Yodan officially worked on the 20th anniversary for about 2 weeks. That's really cool. So if you have cool tidbits and ideas, put them in the chat, and we'll talk about them. But let me turn the audio back on and transition over so we can get started with this game. So I hope you guys are seeing it okay. There's a graphic novel that was actually the original game did have a kind of a comic strip kind of introduction that was redone later for an actual graphic novel that was released. It is a prequel to the events of this game, but also it has spoilers for later parts of the game. So we're actually not going to go through the graphic novel right now. If we have time, if we're interested, we can go through it later. But I will show you at least this is a full-on graphic novel, and it's actually the cover for this graphic novel is done by the same person who did the original Sandman comics for the Vertigo comics. I forget the artist's name, unfortunately. But so you see that this was very much meant to be kind of positioned as a serious graphic novel. So okay, here we go. This was all in the original game. Originally, kind of, like I said, those kind of graphic novel set pieces that are replaced with an actual movie now. But it's the same imagery. So if you play the original game, this is all going to be very familiar. It's actually really cool. And we're going to go right to the credits. Jane Jensen, director, creator, she wrote all 3 games. She's written novels based on this. This is definitely her IP, as it were. But we're going to skip the rest of that. Now, it's the same view from the original game. Like Street, very familiar. I dreamt of blood upon the shore, of eyes that spoke of sin. The lake was smooth and black and deep, as was her scented skin. I should mention, actually, before we get into this, this is definitely more risque than the Sherlock Holmes games. It's not full-on adult, but we're going to see some more mature topics in this.
I bet. Just a minute. It lives, I see. Do you want to speak with Lolita? I'm sorry, but Gabriel's a lout. I mean, he's out. You know, you could do better. I know I don't know you, but you could do better. Bye-bye. Good morning. You look like hell. Did you have another nightmare last night?
Yes, because having nightmares is what I do, apparently. 7th damn night in a row.
I told you, it's that voodoo book you're researching. That stuff can seriously screw with your karma.
Unfortunately, I don't think my readers would go for a horror novel about fluffy bunny rabbits. So voodoo it is.
You mean your reader? She lives in Wisconsin, doesn't she?
Bite me.
Hey, what goes on in your bed stays in your bed as far as I'm concerned. I have messages for you when you want them.
Okay. First of all, that's I'm very familiar with the opening scene because I played it many times when I owned the game originally because I got stuck. And I think I've told this. I think I told the story to stream before, but actually my copy of Gabriel Knight was bugged. I couldn't actually finish the game, so I kept trying to restart it and play it, and I realized there's actually a glitch in the disc. But I had to admit the voices are going to take some getting used to, especially because the script is so exact. It sounds like I know there's more new material in here, but it is going to be interesting to kind of I'm so used to hearing Tim Curry's voice, so it'll take me a while, I think, to warm up to the new actor. But actually, Yodan just in the chat, apparently it was extremely early in development back when I handled testing on most mobile/tablet games, what the time was considered as. Then it was a sure, hey, just got reassigned to other projects before production restarted. So there really much thing to say about it. No, that's fair. That it is actually nice to know that this was actually designed as originally a mobile game, which explains a little bit of the UI I'm seeing here. Big round buttons like this are pretty common for either games that are mobile or are eventually meant to be ported to mobile. Usually you have slightly smaller UI when you are talking about PC forward games or even console starting games. Such why those are kind of harder to port back to it. And then nowadays, some games that you know are going for both will try to get UI that basically shoot the UI for mobile. They can scale it back or tweak it around. But yeah, I have been around these enough that I recognize the UI intent of a game that either was meant to be mobile first or mobile was one of the original rollout plans. There's a score here. This, again, very classic design. I don't think we had a score in Serrated Scalpel, but we did talk about it in the chat how a lot of the games this era, particularly the Sierra games, had scores. And so you earn scores through doing key events, solving puzzles, learning about the world. There is a maximum score. So, we're trying to shoot for 362. And this is kind of, we haven't talked about score yet, but since we have one here, this was really what achievements started from. This was a different mechanic to get people to try to replay the game and to play it differently. Okay, this is audio still too high. Okay, let me turn the mixer down a bit. The goal of score was basically is a reason to get people to keep playing. Oh, let me try this, see if I can increase my score. Achievements are basically the same design, but more kind of specific to an action or a goal. So they're more atomic, as I like to call it. Whereas score is just like, let's see if you can do a score better. I never found personally score or achievements to be a key factor in playing them, but I know for other people it's a way to kind of measure and track replay. One things that this game has, the original game doesn't, is if you click and hold down the score bar, which was definitely, again, a note to the mobile version, or pressing spacebar will show you the hotspots in the area, which is something that is much more common in modern games. We didn't even see it in The Awakens, in Nemesis. That's something that's really been common for this kind of top-down design for mystery games, is that rather than moving the mouse over and trying to find all the hotspots, you'd push something and it would show you all the hotspots. As you mentioned, it says here that, what we've done before, move the cursor around to find hotspots. Click once to walk, double click to teleport, which is interesting. I didn't know that teleporting is something that I haven't seen a lot of games. Usually double click is run, so that's a new one. If you interact with something, the cursor will highlight and display a text label. So that's, again, straight out of Serrated Scalpel. The pause button displays the menu. Press escape also does this. F5 is save, and F7 to open load menu. Okay. This journal button here is Gabriel's journal, which records his thoughts. This is, again, most mystery games have some form of this. We've seen this in just about every game we've played so far. It has hints and clues and goals and stuff. This apparently is special edition content. So that's content, art, notes, interviews, and that's just something I've been seeing more and more of modern games, which I like, is developer commentary kind of stuff. The Wadget Eye adventure games are actually really good about this. Is you turn on or off a developer commentary, and it'll give you usually additional hotspots that you can click on. They'll have comments or notes or pictures or whatever. This hides all the buttons, which is nice if I want to get rid of the UI. That's kind of cool. The inventory bag does inventory. We had inventory in Serrated Scalpel, so again, this is pretty common for games of the era. It looks like this area will be where the active item is, which you remember in Nemesis, the top right corner of the screen was where we had our active item. Here it's right next to the inventory bag, which I think is better user experience because that's where you get trained to look at. This is the area I look at when I want to think about my items. The map button teleports you to the world map. You also press M to go to the map. In certain areas, the game will be grayed out and can't be used. So basically, once I start unlocking areas, I can start teleporting around, similar to the London map in Serrated Scalpel. Talk items, talk to people. Hand item to pick things up, add them to inventory. Operate to use them. This is the active item, which is usually a colored icon, I guess. I to look at things and the door to open. And these are all the keys. Okay, so I'm gonna push the button here. This is all the hotspots. That is a lot. That is interesting. Now some games, what they'll do is if you click on a hotspot, okay, so you click on it, it actually gives me kind of, it looks like a wheel. So I'm guessing other commands probably appear around here.
The windows of St. George's Books overlook Bourbon Street.
Oh, that's something I had forgotten about. The narrator is a black woman, which is something that I can't think of any other games where the narrator is anyone but a man, but particularly a woman of color. So I'm glad they kept that piece at least. And so the original game also, the narrator is very, very sassy. A little bit like the Serrated Scalpel. Serrated Scalpel narrator is more dry. This one is very, very sassy and talks a lot of shit about Gabriel. Now, the downside is, unfortunately, unlike Serrated Scalpel, we don't have any indication that we've previously clicked on hotspots. So that's something to kind of keep in mind.
The windows of St. George's Books overlook Bourbon Street. Gabriel plans to turn the balcony into a schmaltzy cafe if he ever gets the cash. The balcony floor needs work and is unsafe. The chandelier is original. Gabriel finds it charming. All right, all right. He can't afford to replace it.
And remember talking about that the narrator is
Blessed caffeine.
a little sassy.
Good coffee.
Something that was interesting, this happened in the original game as well, but it's a neat little bit. There's an animation loop. Animation loops are ways to kind of, much like audio loops, a way to do something but carefully set back to its original state. So that coffee cup was where he set that originally. He went through the whole animation of making the coffee, coming back here, turning around, drinking it, and then setting the cup back down in the exact same spot. So that way, after the animation is done, the screen sets back to its original state. It's just a neat, clever little bit of things. And schmaltzy, since someone in the chat asked, I believe that is Southern slang for kind of upscale, but in a pretentious way. I'm trying to think of similar adjectives. Schmaltzy just keeps coming to mind, actually. But it's kind of like kitschy, or maybe posh is a more kind of European version of that.
The books on the table have been chosen for their special appeal. Recent fiction by the biggies. In other words, nothing written by Gabriel.
Again, this is the narrator does not respect the protagonist at all, which I frankly have always loved.
Gabriel doesn't want to take that with him. The welcome mat is well worn. Unfortunately, that's only because Gabriel picked it up secondhand, not because of the stampede of customers. There could be a secret passage under the doormat, but we didn't have time.
That was interesting. Past tense there. Usually these kind of commentaries are made in present tense.
Grace's coat is a simple but classic trench coat. Gabriel hates people with good taste.
Leave my coat alone, Gabriel.
Dramatic, isn't it? Gabriel didn't eat for 3 weeks after splurging on that coat. He has a thing for black leather.
I do know schmaltzy is Yiddish. New Orleans is kind of an interesting thing. I should preface by the fact that I am by no means an expert in New Orleans or in Louisiana in general. This is only based on some conversations I've had with a friend of mine who comes from the area. But my understanding is that New Orleans, a lot of people think of French influence in Creole. But there's actually a pretty huge mix of people there. And so the area has lots of idioms from lots of different cultures. That's one of the reasons why the Creole's there, because Creole is basically a mix of different kind of cultural languages. And so there is some Yiddish idioms mixed in as well. So it's not. That being said, Jane Jensen is also, I believe, a New York-based writer, so it may just be a case of she just was familiar with that idiom and didn't think of an appropriate analog. But my understanding is that there's more than just French in New Orleans slang and New Orleans patois.
Today's newspaper is on the counter. Times dated June 18th, 1993. The Aquarius horoscope says, potential storms ahead. Proceed with caution and do not get involved with anything new at this time.
Right.
Spoiler, he will. Yeah, so the newspaper was really kind of like, a way to kind of learn new things.
Times dated June 18th.
Oops, skip that.
Potential.
So voodoo murders, 6 murders in 2 months have pushed the residents of New Orleans into a cold state of fear. The crimes have been dubbed the voodoo murders due to the ritual trappings found at the crime scenes. The police had no leads, but they said in the press statement today that the victims were all out-of-towners. That's cold comfort for natives who have been locking their doors at night and leaving the once rollicking streets of the French Quarter deserted. The mayor's promised a swift resolution to the case, but so far neither the NOPD nor the perpetrators seem to be listening. And we have a photo here of police tape and some police cars in a corner of New Orleans. You didn't mention fun facts. I went to Jane Jensen's farm. Yes, it's in the New York area. It was a Kickstarter reward. Oh, okay. I need a migraine the whole day. Oh, that sucks. I'm still dealing with headaches myself. I had one bad last week, so I canceled. I'm still dealing with one, so I completely sympathize with that.
The box has Gabriel's name on it, written in his grandmother's handwriting. Gabriel's father's old sketchbook sits on the top. Gabriel looks fondly at his father's sketchbook and charcoal pencil.
One thing that's nice is I do like that it puts the last item you picked up in that slot, and you can interact directly with it.
Images haunt the pages of Philip Knight's sketchbook.
Oh, those
the
are
way
nice.
they must have haunted his mind. The images touch a deep chord in Gabriel. So familiar are they that he finds it hard to believe they aren't from his own subconscious.
You can't interact with it, but that's fine. A couple things. One thing I noticed is, again, the game is that little ding, 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 ding. That's a notification that your score went up. So you've heard it 3 times, so that's why we have a score of 3 now. Another thing that the score and that sound is nice is it's a nice way of indicating of you're on the right track. You're doing something that's progressing the storyline or is otherwise interesting. So it's a nice bit of the audio feedback combined with seeing the score go up is a nice little UI clue of, hey, we're moving along, but not a explicit, this is now the next thing that happens. Yudan kind of explains that ruined his day, but I always cherish the moment of Robert Holmes, the composer, playing the theme to Gabriel Knight's piano. Oh man, that must have been really, really cool.
Cute gargoyle, eh?
The gargoyle has no function but sheer ugliness. Not unlike, oh, Never mind.
Honestly, the only other game series I can think of, and you guys may have other examples, the only one I can think of that where the narrator's this just blatantly antagonistic to the protagonist is the Space Quest series. The Space Quest one's the only other one that just so brutalizes the protagonist. But yeah, she is not here to play.
Life is too short to talk to ugly statues.
You never know it by the women you date.
Of course, Grace is not much better. This and the funny part is if you like banter, oh my god, prepare for a lot of it because this game is full of it, and I love banter. I think banter's wonderful, so I am here for it. Oh, this is cool.
Just a few self-help books. That one on top was a joke gift from Mosley.
Which, if you can't read, it does say the top one does say fear of commitment.
Fun times.
People in chat are mentioning that Roger Wilco is supposed to be an underdog, and mostly succeeds by accident. And it's true. Everyone was kind of terrible to Roger Wilco, including the narrator. Gabriel Knight is also a loser. So I think it was kind of Sierra's code for we're trying to let you know that the character you're playing is a loser. Most people are also going to kind of dump on Gabriel Knight. It gets better over time, and if my memory serves, as Gabriel starts to uncover and go through his character arc, the narrator becomes more forgiving of Gabriel. So there's an interesting way of how the narrator actually acts as the voice of how Gabriel's story arc is doing. Right now, he's a loser. He's a shitty novelist in a shitty bookstore.
I don't use hairspray. Nope, not me.
The other thing is Gabriel's also a little self-aware of his status too, so sometimes he's also hard on himself even, which is also again, it's easy to kind of love him as a result of that.
I forget where that came from, but seems like a nice place to visit. I'm going to take the tweezers for a bit.
Good. You're beginning to look a bit scruffy.
I always had a thing for St. George, the one who slew a dragon. Yeah, it's probably bigger than this little guy, though. That's from Gran. She likes to think it means someone's watching over me. I'm not so sure about that, but I don't have a heart to get rid of it.
There's interesting lag on. I just lost my cursor. There's interesting lag right after a line ends. It's like a weird kind of pause before the line moves away. Yes, as pointed out, we're not going to spoilers, but this is foreshadowing. There's the little dragon here, and this is also foreshadowing here.
Someone left those here after Mardi Gras. Someone left those here. My spare motorcycle gloves. Local interest piece on the store. It didn't garner the sympathy sales I was hoping for. Mind if I borrow the magnifying glass?
No, Sherlock. Just bring it back when we get the next estate shipment.
The Blake Backlash series. My literary claim to fame, such as it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. He has 2 novels he has published, not just one. So.
Not so lucky for the rabbit, was it?
That being said, this is actually a very subtle joke, which I did not appreciate at the time, but I've come to appreciate since as a writer. Usually when you are a published novelist, you sometimes, especially for a genre like mystery, your first novel gets picked up. And then if it does well, you'll be asked to write the next 2 novels because one novel and then trilogy sell well. If you've only sold 2, that's actually a sign of a really shitty writer, because it means you were good enough for one, you did a second one, and you're probably not good enough for the third. And the game, I think it comes into it later, is that he's actually in the middle of writing his third book, but it's his agent or his publisher, I forget which, is not hopeful for the sales of the third book. That's one of the reasons why Gabriel's struggling. So this is actually, if you know how the industry works, this is actually a really barbed joke at Gabriel's expense.
I practically own stock in these guys. Gracie's resume. She was way overqualified. And also the only person who applied. Those keychains were for a promo I tried once, before I realized it was hopeless.
I think that's everything here. Oh, repeats.
You can't take 2 steps down Bourbon Street without ending up with a strand of beads.
I will say one thing that I do like about playing the second edition of the game is that I kind of want to check everything out because I don't know if there's anything new. So far, it seems like it's pretty much the same as before, but also it's like there might be a new line or a new spin on something. So the other thing I actually like is that it's...
The old desk is one Gabriel picked up near a dumpster. Not too shabby, huh? Well, okay. Maybe it is.
Maybe it is. One thing I actually like is that because this is a 20th anniversary, it was done in 2013, would have been. Or at least they started production in 2013. I think it came out later than that. So what started off as a modern game, this was set in 1993, current day, has now become an interesting period piece. And so they didn't update it. And it makes sense. If they want to keep generally the games was before, you really can't update it. But I was wondering if they would try to make it to a modern game. But like, for example, here, that big old clunky desk phone, that's straight out of 93. So now we have, the game has become a period mystery, which is an interesting, nothing's changed, it's just time has moved on. So it's an interesting kind of approach to that.
Gabriel looks at the cash register, checking for cobwebs. Gabriel opens the cash register to examine the take, or in the case of St. George's books, the mistake.
I love this woman so much. Oh my god.
The cash register contains about $20 in small bills and change. It doesn't seem to work that way.
Gabriel, that's all the change I have. Touch it and you can kiss your hand goodbye.
Would I do that to you?
It's a $20 gift certificate left over from yet another dismal failure of a promotion.
I trust you can live without this old gift certificate.
Knock yourself out.
One thing that's interesting about the art style is that this is not quite a photograph. You could tell, like, just by the way the buttons are here and some of these little edges, that this is definitely someone painted this, but it's really close, and it matches pretty well to the not quite. It's clearly video graphics, but also it's trying to be as realistic as possible, also recognizing its art style. Does he have relatively cohesive art style? The original game was very much pixel graphics and then comic book panel, because it had limitations, so it had to kind of try to juggle that balance. This is a closer step toward it, but also a lot of the framing and whatnot does look a lot like mobile games. Now that I mentioned mobile games, the more I see it now, it's like there was an era of mobile games around 4 or 5 years ago that had these kind of heavier frames and pop outs. The hidden picture games used this kind of visual look of these kind of like these really ornate studded frames and whatnot. That was actually really popular about 4 or 5 years ago in mobile games.
Grace likes a little banker's lamp. She has the soul of an accountant.
Like there's even an ashtray here.
It's an ashtray.
apparently put the gift certificate in the ashtray?
That doesn't seem to work that way.
Oh, I see. Selecting the item in inventory allows it to become your active item that appears an icon when interacting with people or objects while playing. Underneath the list of items are 3 buttons. The eye allows you to examine it, the magnifying glass allows you to interact with it, and the plus button allows you to combine 2 items. Okay. So I can do this, for example, in the ashtray.
Gabriel can't see a way to use that.
Okay. It's a little clunkier than, I mean, I suppose about the same. It's an extra
There's
step.
no point in magnifying the empty ashtray.
If I remember the original game, basically you kind of drag an item over to an object. So it's not terrible, but it's not great. Magnifying glass highlights all items that can be directly interacted with from the inventory screen. Oh, okay, that's actually clever. So say, here's the only things you can click on, and then click on it. Okay, that's actually a nice little touch. Sorry about these art supplies.
Grace keeps her art supplies here. Gabriel wouldn't dare touch Grace's oil paints.
Don't mind if I do.
Do what?
Oh, nothing.
Yeah, I had clicked on Grace instead of I was trying for the phone, but then I looked at Grace and said, don't mind if I do. So that's what that's
Don't mind.
Do.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to hit the phone. Okay, that's just to use. Okay, so before
Gabriel would rather use the phone in his studio for privacy.
one downside is if you click on the item, you have to choose a verb. You can't get out of it. It's just a minor thing. Before I talk to Grace, I've gone through all of this, and one thing that I really love about Gabriel Knight is I didn't really tell you. I've given you some bits while I'm going through it, but I didn't really tell you much about the story. I kind of just dove in. I gave you the back of the box, which is he's a novelist. He's working on the novel. He's in New Orleans, and the intro was very kind of moody, and then the actual interaction between 2 characters was relatively short. But you learned a lot about both these characters from the scene, from looking around. We know that Gabriel Knight's a novelist. We know that he's down in his luck. We know that he's owns a bookstore. The bookstore is not doing well. He's been trying to make it do well. It's not been doing better. Grace is working with him. She's much smarter than him, but he's desperate for help and work. She works with him for her own reasons. She's an artist of some caliber, oil painting, very likely. He has a family. He has a father who's tormented. His father was also an artist. His grandmother has the book for some reason now. We live in a time where there are voodoo murders happening in '93. So I mean, we've got a lot of background information for this game, but the game didn't tell us all of that. We could have just dove right in, but I believe if you try to just start talking to Grace and doing stuff, I think it's one of those things you have to click on certain things before you can progress. I believe that's how the design of the game works. So you kind of have to see certain key pieces, but it's also training you to say, hey, if you click on everything, I mean, look, we've already had 6 points just by looking at things. So they want you to look at everything, which is what you want to train players in a mystery game. And also that if I click on things, it's funny, it's interesting, so I want to do it more because it's entertaining, and also I learn more about the nature of the game. But something else I do want to talk about before we start talking characters. I only want to say this once. I may allude it again in future episodes if I need to, but the positive to Gabriel Knight is actually there's a fair amount of people of color in this game. Grace is Asian American. There are several black characters in the game. So on that front, for 1993, it's actually really cool that they were inclusive. The downside is how it portrays voodoo is very 1990s. It is very much a 90s America pop culture perspective of voodoo. And so you're going to see a lot of stuff that is very sensationalized approach to the religion. That said, the story does also recognize that to a degree. I don't think it does the best job from a modern perspective, making a distinction. But for 1993, it's definitely presenting here's pop culture version of voodoo, and representing the fact that we recognize that there is more nuance to it than what we are presenting here, but it doesn't kind of stick the landing on that. So I wanted people to be aware if you're unfamiliar with the story. Speaking as a white man, I can't say whether something's horribly offensive or not, but the game has aged pretty well in a lot of fronts, but it is still written for its time. I'll be curious to see if they update anything for the 20th anniversary edition on this front or not. So one of the reasons why I wanted to play this over the original game is because I want to see if there have been changes or not. But there are some parts that, looking at any media that's 25 years old, it's going to be like, ooh, yeah, maybe that could have been done better. So I wanted to put that out there, that there's going to be some bumpy parts where and I'll call them out when I see where it's like, okay, yeah, that could have been not great. But anyhow, that out of the way, let's talk to Grace.
Got a minute, Grace?
What's up?
Most key topics for Grace game are highlighted in gold. This is straight out of the original game. This is basically our ye old dialogue tree. You've seen it in probably lots of different games. This is a slightly different approach to it. Basically, Gabriel's got a bunch of topics to ask people about. As you go through the game, you'll unlock more topics, and those topics will allow you to go back to people and ask them more questions. So, like a mystery, you learn about things. It gives you more things to ask people about. The original game had this as well. These are the topics. If you just want to get through the game, you can click on. You don't have to talk about this stuff. But frankly, most of them are just really fun because I love dialogue.
What do you know about voodoo?
I didn't know much of anything about it until you started researching it for your book. Now I know that it's active in the city. There's that shop and museum. It can clearly be dangerous in the wrong hands. You should be careful investigating it.
Again, it doesn't show you which ones you've already played, which is a little irritating, but whatever.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Just what I read in the papers, same as you.
Did you find any good voodoo resources for me?
The best in the city are supposedly the Dixieland Drugstore and the Historical Museum of Voodoo. Both are right here in the French Quarter.
How would I ever manage without you?
You? Give me a break. The devil himself couldn't change you.
Well, if the devil had great legs, perhaps. Like yours.
And a riveting personality, I'm sure. If you need any more research done, just ask. It's not as though we're swamped with customers.
So here's the first thing. There's the reason why I wanted to bring a caveat before we talk to Grace. Yes, Gabriel Knight sexually harasses his employee. That being said, it is all verbal. That doesn't excuse it, but the point is that this is the character he is. He is a lech, and while in one respect it's not aged well, I think in another respect it does something very interesting and important for Gabriel Knight, is that he's not necessarily the character you're supposed to like in the beginning. A lot of the game, the narrator doesn't like him. He's doing things that we as a player go, that's kind of skeezy, and he's down on his luck. So he doesn't start off as a lovable loser. Again, he does evolve as a character over time. So he's still going to be a flirt, but here it's particularly egregious. So I don't know how much of this is the game is not aged well and how much of this is intentional by the author. I do feel like there is some intent by Jensen here. I do feel like she's intentionally portraying this character as someone unlikable. I think that unlikableness age has made that a harder thing than perhaps would have been intended at the time. Now it's more like, oh, it's just kind of awkward, but we kind of live with it, and she's a tough woman who can stand up to it, so it's okay. Whereas now, in the midst of movements like Me Too and whatnot, it lands a bit harder than it probably would have landed at the time, even 5 years ago. So a lot of people are going to bounce off this game because of this right here. The only thing I will say, and Yuna backs me up in the chat, is that Gabriel Knight does evolve. If you're into seeing a just unlikable character become a better human being, then this game will help you out with that. But there is a bit of you having to kind of go through that to start.
What can you tell me about Gnarlings?
I've only been here 2 months, but I love it. It's so much more alive than any place I've been. It feels like anything's possible here.
Do you have messages for me?
Your friend Detective Mosley called. Talkative, isn't he?
Especially with you. What did he want?
He told me to tell you that his mother's maiden name is Humphrey, and that he left some photos for you at the station, at the front desk.
It's about time.
Let me guess. This has to do with the voodoo murders, right? Some kind of inside police information? Did you tell him you'd put him in your new book?
Maybe. A writer has a certain obligation to his readers, you know.
Gabriel, you know you'll never put him in your book. Your main character's a female orthodontist. You're gonna be reincarnated as a pit bull if you keep screwing with your karma.
As long as it's a male pit bull with a really big...
That's enough. Thanks.
But again, I do feel like that exchange actually reinforces my point. Yes, he's again talking about his penis, but it also shows that he's shitty to his friends. So I do feel like some of this is intentional. We're not really supposed to like this guy, and so there's a gameplay of why am I playing this game with this unlikable protagonist, but it also sets up. We like Grace. Grace is set up as a very likable, approachable character. Other characters will come in that will also help fill that role. Combined with the fact is you're immediately put to an intriguing setting and an intriguing situation. The voodoo murders are immediately a plot hook. So it gets you over the hump of an unlikable character. There are other games that have unlikable protagonists that evolve over time. So this is not an uncommon hook either. Again, I just feel like some parts of his portrayal has not aged well in some respects, but I did think it's worth reinforcing the fact that this is very likely intentional.
Tell me about yourself, Grace.
What do you want to know?
I'm gonna skip that one.
How do you like working at St. George's Books?
Well, it's not exactly a huge intellectual challenge. Although the math in your record books could confuse Einstein. Still, I love old books. And it's a nice way to pay the bills while I explore the city for a summer. If you ever pay me, that is.
What do you do after work?
I either go to my oil painting class or my Tai Chi. You know that.
You can go overboard with this improving yourself stuff. You don't want to alienate us mere mortals.
Oh, I suppose I should just allow my mind and body to atrophy.
Works for me. How old are you?
Old enough to know about men like you.
Just tell me anything at all.
I just got my master's in history and classics. My folks wanted me to go on right away for my PhD, but 18 years of school was enough. I needed a break.
I was just put out in the chat, and I was just noticing it too, is that when they talk, they have what animators call lip flaps. Basically, your mouth shape moves to the words that are being said. Different animations have different fidelity to the speaking lines. Sometimes they're just really just open and close, which is where the flap comes from. Other times it's much more elaborate like this one. But there's something odd about how they're animating the mouths. The teeth in particular are particularly interesting. So I will say the anything option will give you can just keep asking, and she'll keep giving you more and more biographical information, which is a neat little kind of way of saying, here's just cool stuff about Grace if you really care about her as a character.
Nothing, I guess. Never mind.
But yeah, you can see there. I'll show you again. I'll click on the thing, but watch their mouths. There's something interesting, not in a good way, happening with how their mouths are animated.
So, what's new, Grace?
Your use of mathematics, for one thing. These books are unbelievable.
What can I say? I refuse to be bound by rules.
The strap marks on your bedpost speak otherwise.
First of all, zing. Second of all, I think what's happened is, the face is at an angle, so the face is curved, but the teeth are on a straight line. So the teeth don't look like they quite match the curvature of the face. I think this is probably happening there. And also chat, again, somewhere you can keep checking on it and it'll keep giving more options.
Do you have messages for me?
You got a call from someone named Wolfgang Ritter. He was calling from Germany. He told me it was urgent. Maybe you should give him a call.
Call Germany? Like hell. If it's really important, he'll call back.
Well, fine. Let's just hope he's not with the German lottery for pitiful American authors.
I actually feel like I may need to. I think everyone in the chat probably is old enough, but just in case someone watching isn't, long distance charges were a thing in '93. Calling a different country would have been exorbitantly expensive, like in the dozens of dollars to make a phone call. So that's why Gabriel's reluctant to call Germany. That's something that would have made sense in '93. I think the context is actually lost over time, where it's not extremely easy to call overseas for really cheap.
Do you have messages for me?
Your grandmother called.
I keep meaning to get over there. What did she say? Did she sound good?
She sounded great. We had a nice little chat about you.
Grace.
Don't worry, I didn't go into detail about your cardinal sins. Not that anything about you could surprise her. She adores you anyway.
She's my girl.
And she sent over that box on the table for you.
There's a couple things. One, I want to mention the grandmother bit. We're starting to see Gabriel's not completely redeemable. They build in this tree. Here's some things where he's kind of a sexist pig, but then, he really loves his grandmother. And Grace also seems like his grandmother, so that kind of helps validate, okay, she must be a good person because both of them like her. And the character we like, and the character we don't like, both seem to have a common connection of this third person we haven't seen yet and don't know anything about, his grandmother. Already we're starting to see, okay, there's layers to Gabriel that we're not seeing, that he has some redemptive qualities, which is good. It's important to get that right here, and it's good that it happens in this tree. You can't leave this screen, really, without getting that. And while it's under the directive of make sure the player gets this box, because it's a key part of moving forward, also it gets this cool, important character bit. The other thing is you notice that chat herself, New Orleans, a couple of these, if you keep clicking on them, keep getting new things, which is good because it's training us to click on messages. Notice that now messages is now dark. So the white ones don't change color, but the yellow ones do change to gray when you've gone through all the options. So otherwise we might have missed, there's more than one message here, so we have to play through messages a few times. Request research, we don't have anything to ask Grace to research yet, so that's grayed out right out the bat. So we see yellow means there's stuff here, gray means we can't really do anything yet. Again, this is actually really smartly developed. It's teaching the player how the stuff is without showing a lot. And again, 1983, so in a modern or even a futuristic fantasy game, a lot of the research we would do by hands. We'd do Google searches or internet searches, or go to the library. We're going to be doing all the research through Grace, and by having this great option here, we anticipate future needs for Grace. So to say, hey, by the way, Grace is not just here to put Gabriel in his place, which he desperately needs, but also she's providing a game function. She's going to help us with our research tasks that will happen in the near future. So it's anticipating future gameplay for this character. And also, I think, just from a story perspective, because this is a game that you have to do research a moderate amount. There's a moderate amount of things you have to look up. So having that be wrapped around an entertaining character makes the task more interesting than just a search bar, as it were. So I'm not going to go through all of those. I think we got the major ones here. But also see, again, much less hand-holdy than modern games. We've got like all sorts of things we can do right now. There's the drugstore, there's the museum, we go to the police station, and we have the phone call. So there's like 4 different things we can start off with right now. That gives you a lot of different options. Since I'm right here, and also a chance to share the bedroom, I'm going to go take the phone call. So again, you're gonna see the the first stage was really kind of setting St. George and the character St. George and a little bit of the character St. Orleans. This is now set dressing, also telling some information about Gabriel. This is Gabriel's office / bedroom, and so you're seeing already learning bits about the character. He doesn't have a lot of clothing. He has a lot of books. He has a typewriter here. I mean, so we're already getting an understanding of the character just by seeing this set. Again, really, really good design.
Several dozen books, including a few of Gabriel's novels, occupy the shelves above his desk.
Oh, he has a few novels. I thought it was only two.
Gabriel doesn't feel like reading right now.
Unless it may be multiple copies. He may have copies of his novels. So maybe like a few copies of his novels, which is not a few distinct separate novels.
The typewriter is beginning to accumulate cobwebs.
Should I feel guilty?
Yes.
Nah.
Yes, you should. You should be writing. I should be writing.
The typewriter is too heavy to lug around.
Can't. Writer's block.
Writer's block.
Handsome, isn't he?
That's another thing. It's subtle, but who the narrator is. The handsome isn't he? Unlocked a whole bunch of stuff, but in the Space Quest games, the narrator is a distinct character. Specifically because Roger Wilco, and I think it's 4, maybe 5, can interact with the narrator. So we know the narrator is a distinct character. They can have conversations with the protagonist. Who the narrator is in Gabriel Knight is more nebulous. But the handsome isn't he line sets up two interesting resonances, both of which work for the game. If the narrator is distinct, is a separate character that's observing the game and commenting on the game, then this woman who's doing the narration has just no respect for Gabriel whatsoever. We've seen that already, but recognizes that he's a handsome man, and in a somewhat flirtatious way. Like, I would be into him. That isn't he is. The handsome is, the way she delivers the line is very much the. I could see that. So it sets up one thing. The other option is, of course, that the narrator is Gabriel, to a certain extent. This is Gabriel's subconscious, and that Gabriel is hard on himself, which the game bears out. Gabriel recognizes himself as a loser. He's a writer with writer's block that is not doing well, and has a store that's not doing well. Even in his conversation with Grace, you see that he is self-deprecating, and so that gets, definitely played out. But either take you have, whether it is a omnipotent woman who sees this loser but still is attracted to him, or a man who subconsciously recognizes his own attractiveness, it both paints a picture of a man who gets by largely by his looks and charm. And so, again, it's a very subtle piece of character building. That one line, handsome isn't he? The more you think about it, the more it sets up a lot of ramifications. It's a throwaway line, but it's something you stick in the back of your head, is that I am told this character is handsome. And the game is going to reinforce that. Grace has made it clear, and Gabriel's lines have made it clear that he sees lots of women. He's a womanizer. He flirts with women, and he gets away with it. Grace is one of the few people he can't get away with, and that is, to a degree, the foundation of the relationship, is that she is the woman that he can't get away with this shit on. But with a lot of women he can. For all we know, a lot of men he can. I'm not going to cast questions in that direction. But the point is that he is someone who recognizes that he is handsome and that he is charming, and that he lets him get away with a lot of bullshit. And that is, again, a key piece of the character that gets challenged and ultimately evolves over time.
Gabriel likes subdued lighting in his studio.
I'll just leave it on.
Gabriel's desk has been gathering dust since he wrote his last novel.
And actually, something I just noticed. This is definitely something that's new. But the desk, you can actually see the dust here. And I think it's meant to be. I think in reality it is just a repeating texture, but it does actually look like there's layers of dust on there, which is a really, really nice touch.
Gabriel's mini stereo isn't exactly high fidelity. Then again, neither is he.
Can you play music?
You're listening to KLEB in Nolens, where we play the
Oh, that's interesting. It's a little word balloon.
24 hours a day. Do you have men problems? Someone put a hex on you? Call Sister Cross. Through the power of
The
love and
wastebasket
the Lord Jesus
overflows
Christ,
with
she can
crumpled
fix
pages
what
of
ails you.
mediocre
The
glory.
Creole Grand Dames will hold their annual
Okay, I'm gonna
Gardenia
shut up the radio
Festival
because it's
this
gonna be hard to
month.
hear both of those lines and me.
Bills from last Christmas gathered dust on the floor. Gabriel couldn't pay those bills when they were due, and he can't pay them now.
Just sit here.
An office chair waits for Gabriel to sit down and write something. If Gabriel sat down, he might actually have to write something.
Another thing is that I understand why they made the decision. There's no reason to change it, but when these hotspots were not easily accessible like that, you have to design with the idea that players might miss something. So they might hit the books, but they might miss the chair, or they might hit the desk, but they might miss the wastebasket, whatever. So you notice that there's a lot of redundant clues here. And in this case, these are just character clues. But this whole area is designed with the intent of we want to establish that Gabriel has not written since his last novel. He has writer's block. And so you notice there's like 6 or 7 different ways it's being come across. The idea is that the player might miss a few. Because we have this, we're not going to miss a few. They're all going to be there, so we don't have to worry about that. But it does seem what's going to happen is over time you're going to say, I've already heard this, or I've heard a version of this. Why am I listening to this again? It's because the original design was that you might not get it. The player might skip right over those handful of pixels and not click on it, or just might not want to click on it. There's the bed.
It's Gabriel's bed, unmade as usual.
It's no use. I can't sleep.
Another subtle reference to the, the nightmares he mentioned. Yeah, he said he can't sleep. Grace mentioned he had trouble sleeping. Again, small things, but
The
they are there.
carpet was grand. She gave it to Gabriel to cheer the place up.
Let sleeping lions lie. I got that cheap at a garage sale. Always had a thing for lions.
I think Hiroshi pointed at it when he was talking about it. And also, one thing I like about playing games that I'm familiar with is that I can kind of point, hey, check this thing out. This thing's gonna be cool. This thing's gonna be relevant. With games I'm not familiar with, sometimes like, oh shit, by the way, I should have mentioned 10 minutes ago.
The dresser holds a meager supply of underwear and 38 pairs of mismatched socks. There's a flashlight on the dresser. The building's wiring leaves a lot to be desired.
I might need a flashlight.
This is also definitely a game of pick if everything's not nailed down. You don't know why. Some things you can't take, some things you can. It's just how it is.
A poster on the wall advertises Mardi Gras, the biggest party of the year in Nolens.
Interesting that she pronounced it New Orleans, but it was spelled out New Orleans. Interesting. And I don't have any comment on that, just more interesting
The
observation.
closet is loaded with white t-shirts. There's one black button-down for those fancy occasions.
All my clothes look the same, so why change them?
The closet is loaded.
I might be able to use this black shirt.
So the I mentioned before is like, uh, um, this way you make a little redundancy, but the flip side is that I don't remember how many times I've been like, why am I stuck in this place? Why I can't figure out how to get a light? Oh, it's because there's a flashlight in this one little section of the dresser back in my room I never got. So this says he's helpful me to make sure I get everything. So that I fully
Gabriel
appreciate.
likes subdued lighting.
I do appreciate that change in design.
A little cold bubbly and brie cheese is about all Gabriel's fridge ever has in it.
Gabriel, shut that refrigerator, please. Oh, I can smell it from here.
Whimmer. My bathroom. I've got to get around to cleaning up in there. I don't need to, thanks.
The medicine cabinet contains a few old prescriptions, personal hygiene stuff, and lots of hair products.
I'll take this hair gel. You never know when you'll need a touch-up.
And I'm like, the game's trying to give the list to me. Like, maybe I need this. Who knows? But reality is, there's no reason. It's because you will need a puzzle at some point in the future. So I can use the hair gel with the phone if I want to. I'm just gonna use phone. Oh, I have to actually dial a number. That's right, I forgot that. Okay, well. Wait, what? Why did the radio just turn itself on? Also, it's not playing the audio, it's just playing the thing.
The label on the hair gel jar talks about mysterious Hawaiian roots and ancient Oriental secrets. The copy is almost as believable as Gabriel's novels.
Alright, whatever. I forgot, it's like, because of the long distance, Gabriel, okay. I have to, the person will call back with a number that I'll do them before call. So, that downside again, because I know kind of the beats, sometimes figure what order they're happening. It's like, oh wait, no, that doesn't happen yet. But we're gonna go out into the black leather duster, which is so 90s it hurts.
See you later.
See ya.
And he's gonna ride a motorcycle, because of course he does. And here's the map. This looks actually very familiar to the Sherlock Holmes map. I can't scroll around it, but you have Jackson Square, Cathedral, Police Station, St. George's Books, the Dixon Drugstore, and the Wood Museum. So let's start with the police station. That's the most obvious place to start with. Now you gotta mention that most popular theory, kind of backed by Jane herself, is that Gabriel Knight 4, had it been happened, would have been about ghosts. So, need to know. And so click on the bike takes you to the map.
Those motorcycles belong to the precinct. They're not nearly as cool as Gabriel's bike. Gabriel has his own bike. The front windows have iron half grills on them, as if anyone would try to break into a police station. The police station is in a classic French Quarter building.
That is true. That's very loud.
That's Mosley's office.
The Honest Path mentioned she was a writer on Police Quest 3: The Kindred, which is obviously about vampires. Obviously. And what else could it possibly be about?
I should add Mosley to the hat. That window leads to Mosley's office.
It's another municipal building, but not one Gabriel has any interest in.
It's a building, but it's not relevant to the plot, so look at it.
A portrait of the Narland's chief of police, a fine, upstanding citizen. In other words, nothing like Gabriel.
So mean.
Interesting design for a trash can. Must have been on sale at Cops R Us.
I actually can't make out the design. It looks like it's maybe an S or something. I don't know.
It's not going to look any better somewhere else. A uniformed officer of the NOPD.
Oh, it's a snake. That's right. I do remember it's a snake. That's right. It's a clue to a later thing. It's just harder to see on this version. It's a little more subtle, and the line does not say, "Hey, it's a snake."
Officer, can I ask you some questions?
Desk sergeant's right over there.
All right. Fine.
The desk sergeant looks like a poster boy for heart disease. 30 extra pounds between his armpits and his belt, and a complexion the consistency of gray oatmeal. In other words, a typical product of good southern cooking.
Living in Atlanta, I can't really argue that.
Gabriel is standing in the lobby of his friend Mosley's precinct. It smells like a cross between a hospital and a brewery.
Got a second, officer?
What can I do you for?
What do you know about voodoo?
Me? Nothing. I'm a Catholic boy.
What can you tell me about Narlands?
I'll tell you, I'm glad as hell it's not Mardi Gras. If it weren't for that 1 month a year, being a cop in Narlands would be a real pleasure. As it is, I'd rather stick behind this desk.
I was supposed to pick up some photos from Detective Mosley at the front desk.
Is that right? And who are you?
My name is Knight. Gabriel Knight.
Yeah, I got something for you, all right. As soon as you're done talking, I'll give it to you.
That sounds like the right.
I'm here to see Detective Mosley.
He's out at a crime scene. Sorry.
Where's the crime scene? Is it related to the voodoo murders?
Crime scene information is police confidential. We don't need any more looky-loos than are probably already there.
Yeah, his name is Frick.
Here's that envelope for you, Gabriel Knight.
Frick
Thanks.
cops.
Gabriel opens the manila envelope and finds 2 photographs. The photograph of Mosley was apparently taken upon his graduation from the police academy. He had hair then. One of the photos from Mosley is an official voodoo murders crime scene shot, a graphic close-up of a victim.
That's interesting. Like, in '93, this is a heavily pixelated version of this photo. I'm wondering. I remember that being very grisly for the time. I remember it wasn't. I don't think it was controversial, but I think it was shocking to people who were used to, like Heroes Quest, stuff like that from Sarah. This was definitely pitched as a horror game, horror mystery-ish game. Whereas now I look at that and it's like, I don't feel it nearly as grisly as the pixelated version, but I think it's also just time. It's like, I have a certain nostalgic reference to that, whereas this, like, the other thing is it looks a lot like Samuraya's artwork, which is a ton of the Chronicles Darkness art. I mean, that style of photograph with painting, it's very Samurai. So I wonder if he worked on this, or if one of his friends worked on this. That's just distinctive style. Okay.
The bulletin board is littered with everything from wanted posters to flyers. There's a photocopy machine in the office area. There's no reason to photocopy that.
My purist photocopy deck. You don't know.
No one goes back there until I say so, mister.
Oh, sorry.
Mister. Oh, okay. Combine button allows you to combine two items by clicking on them. Highlighted green. Not combinable, will be highlighted yellow. Okay. So theoretically I could shorten gel. There's a certain gel combine for some reason. So you can kind of brute force this, which is, not necessarily bad. But anyway, sorry, I want to.
The $20 gift certificate for St. George's looks pitifully new and unused.
Right, what I wanted to do there, that's what I was trying to get to be my icon.
He doesn't seem interested in that.
I can't bribe the cop with the gift certificate.
Got a forklift?
Oh, ouch. Not cool.
There's a temperature gauge on the wall near Mosley's office. Gabriel can't do that from the front lobby.
She's not bad.
It's an inbox. There's nothing of interest in the inbox at the moment. That camera looks professional. Gabriel can't do that from the front lobby.
Okay, so key favorite thing I can give the cop at the moment. So let's go to the alleyway.
That window leads to Mosley's office.
If Gabriel wants to talk to Mosley, he can go in through the front door.
I actually can't. That was the whole reason why I'm here. Alright. So I have to walk all the way back to the bike, which is an instant subject. Right to the map here.
Hey, Grace, here I am.
Oh boy, party time.
Got a minute, Grace?
What's up?
Okay, can't do that. Trying to see if it unlocked any research options.
Gabriel would rather use the phone in his
Okay,
studio
so I can't
for privacy.
call anybody. Trying to find a crime scene. So I don't know what that is yet, so I'm gonna try a couple of things first. One thing you will see again, I talked about this on Serrated Scalpel, is
I'm out of here. Try not to sell out the store while I'm gone.
Uh-huh.
haha, because I do so well financially. is that again, it doesn't give you sometimes a ton of guidance. It's usually like, hey, it's just, here's a map, figure out things out. But you have this. And actually, hold on a second.
I knew you'd miss me, so I came
I just
back.
want to get somewhere
Really?
with
I forgot you were gone.
less bombastic music. So we have the journal here. This is another kind of auxiliary way to kind of world build as well as give information, because this is Gabriel's journal, so it's written in his voice. And he again mentions bad dreams, snakes and flames, and some leopard-faced woman. Grace thinks that from the research you're doing in voodoo murders, I think she thinks too much. Speaking of which, she has messages for me. Maybe one of them will provide some inspiration. So this is not only stuff that we went through, but also the original. Hey, I want to check this out. Grace found some places in the French Quarter from my voodoo research. There's this door. So I was going to re-authenticate them tomorrow. Mosley comes through. Fortunately, Mosley's always been easy to manipulate and poor, soft-hearted bastard, which again kind of reinforces he's not a great friend. First not talking. There has to be a cop somewhere in New Orleans dumb enough to tell me. With some creepy photos, Graves offered book. Okay, so no way to turn a page, so we go to hints. What things do you do? Day 1. Visit the crime scene to get 2 clues from there. You ask Grace to do research for this in the area. Okay, well, I don't have any of those yet. This is the look at the sketching of the shop. Okay, so we need to find a way to talk to a guy.
See you later.
See ya.
I think I remember how this worked actually, but I'm gonna try the obvious first.
Officer, can I ask you some questions?
Desk sergeant's right over there.
Yeah, okay. That's hard.
Gabriel can't do that from the front lobby.
Okay. So, we'll try to find some other cops. Actually, I don't need to do that. Who said this? Again, just a nice little bit. So we're at the police station, go to St. Louis Cathedral, Jackson Park, Jackson Square, Jackson Square overhang, drug station. Let's. He said. Now, again, we could go there. But one thing that the journal said is I'll go check out tomorrow or in day 1. Those aren't really relevant to day 2. So really looking at that. And sure enough, there's a cop here. Interesting that also I should do that.
Good day, officer.
Yeah, you too. Keep moving.
There's a police band radio on that bike. Mind if I use your radio?
What are you, nuts?
You
Forget it.
white-faced geek, you want to eat my fist?
That was a interesting overlap there. Oh, it does just teleport. Oh, okay.
He's not my type. He's not my type.
There it is. Okay, so. What we do is we heard that there was the police radio, so the motorcycle radio.
Gabriel has his own bike.
Oh, come on. Pretty sure is how you do it.
Gabriel has his own bike.
Use the radio on the bike.
Those motorcycles belong to the precinct. They're not nearly as cool as Gabriel's bike.
Oh, wait, no, I think I need to use an item with it. Oh, actually, no. I think I remember. It is slowly coming back to me now.
Could I ask you a few questions?
Not now, buddy. I'm busy.
I should have noticed that. Thanks. Yeah, right.
I think actually the radio will eventually tell you the location.
There's a police band radio on that bike.
You white-faced geek, you want to eat my
Mind
fist?
if I use your radio?
What are you, nuts? Forget it.
Touchy.
Where's that bark keep coming from?
I would if I had enough time to do it properly.
That jazz band is pretty good. Of course, most jazz bands in New Orleans are.
Nice flowers. Not that a real man would notice something like that. I don't need any flowers. They'd probably just get crushed on my bike anyway.
Case is not clear. Gabriel's a bad case of trying too hard.
Well, I never. Leave me alone, you man.
Alright. There's something going on here. But, oh, I missed it! Ugh.
You white-faced geek, you want to eat my fist?
Yeah, when you get, those of you that know, video game parlance, those are called barks. When you get unprompted audio cues. It's not where I wanted to go. Let me go back to the Jackson Square. So, usually when you get something like that, but it doesn't seem like it's connected to any action you're taking, it's the, hey, let's draw your attention over here, or hey, let's give you some additional information.
A bronze statue of Andrew Jackson marks the center of Jackson Square. Since Gabriel can't read lips, he's disinclined to start a conversation.
You white-faced geek, you want to
Okay.
eat my fist?
You actually can't click on the mime. Oh, there it is. Okay.
It's one of those mimes. Oh boy. Since Gabriel can't read. There's no reason to wear that at the moment.
He's not my type.
Oh, right. I remember now. So, you have to walk by the mime, and he's gonna start making fun of you, following around. Yeah.
Knock it off, you, before I shove this washboard down your throat.
Okay, I remember now. No, yeah, okay. There's actually an interesting clue.
You white-faced geek, you want to eat my fist?
Something actually I don't remember the original game did very well, but the mime changes his stance with who he's trying to mimic, and we're basically trying to lure him to the cop. Right now he's mimicking me. Stop that. Alright. So you drag him around, and make sure he doesn't get near other people, so he starts mimicking them. Like I have to keep him away from this guy. It is not easy to do. I remember it being a pain in the ass the original game too. Because we learned is like mime pisses everybody off.
Say what?
Now again, this is not. I remember this took me like hours to figure out in the original time. I mean, a lot of this is I vaguely remember how this works, combined with you folks in chat helping out. But this is not easy stuff. Oh no, no, stop walking. Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking. Come on, mime. Come on. There we go. Now, where's the cop? Mime after mime is the achievement.
Hey, cut that out. I told you to stop that. All right, mister, you want some of this? Why, you little...
Come on. There we go. Now I can use the radio.
Gabriel picks up the headset and listens.
Ambulance 91, have you located the crime scene? They've radioed for you 3 times. Did you say it was north of the Lake Retreat Country Club? South, Lakeside Drive, north of the Piedmont Pier, south of the Country Club. Man, I don't know if it's the clouds out here today or what. Good thing this guy's already dead. Everyone's having trouble. Must have been hallucinogens in the coffee this morning.
Ha ha
Well,
ha.
I never. Leave me alone, you man.
Got him, Molly. Thank God. Have a good one, 91.
Interesting.
Hey, you, get away from that bike.
Sorry.
Alright, so that was bad design choice there. One of the barks played and the text overlaid one of the lines for the audio. So I actually couldn't read one of those little clips. Both audios played, so you heard them both, but really the system should have been designed that way when that's being played, all the barks should have stopped, or at least been shoved to the back and not play that text. So that's not great design, but irrelevant.
Well, I never. Leave me alone.
Well, I see that we have Greater New Orleans map. That's new. There's the crime scene. Okay. Well, that looks nice.
Hey, Mostly.
Huh? Knight, you wiener, I told you not to call me that.
Feeling jumpy?
Who, me? Don't be stupid. How'd you find me?
Oh, I was just driving by.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess I can let you see it, for the book. But don't tell anyone, huh? Definitely another voodoo murder. Same MO and no freaking clues. We're still waiting on an ID for the body.
Oh, that's disgusting. Isn't this a rather public area for this kind of thing?
Yeah, they're freaking ghosts, these guys. Lakeshore Drive isn't exactly the 10 expressway, but it is open to the public. No reports and nothing. Now, who the hell is that? Good day, Miss Getty.
What's going on, officer?
Detective Mosley, ma'am. We got a little problem here, but nothing for you to be concerned about.
I see. Thank you, Detective. And good day, gentlemen.
I'm in love.
Forget it. That's Molly Ageti. She's about as far out of your reach as the moon. Probably on her way to meet some guy with a yacht right now.
Near here?
The lake's a popular place for country clubs.
If she's out here a lot, maybe she saw something or heard something.
Nah, nobody ever sees or hears nothing. I told you. Besides, you just don't go around bothering people like her.
We've about wrapped it up, sir.
Well, let's get the meat wagon moving then. Stick around and take notes for the book if you want. Watch out for the muck and the water moccasins, though. If you want to talk, I'll be at the station tomorrow.
Thanks.
So yeah, the Honest Path mentions we don't have a lot of budget, so we use still illustrations for our cutscenes. That's pretty common. It is, like I mentioned before, the original game had a comic strip or comic book looking thing, so that's very similar to what I looked at before. There was more animation in each of the panels, but that was definitely still evocative of the original thing. But it is still pretty common of we'll do a still image with maybe a little bit of animation as a cheap way of getting around doing a full cinematic. A lot of indie studios use some form of that, and it's not uncommon. And I think normally visually it works really well. This is not too bad. The art style matches to a certain degree, but again, you have this fully rendered 3D stuff, and then you have that comic book strip. Sometimes it can be a little odd. But it's not that much different than the Sherlock Holmes game, where it kept kind of jumping between the rendered video and then the gameplay. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and save. Oh, that's nice. It gives me the location as a save name. That's good. And I'm going to call that there. I'm starting to get a bit of a headache again, so I'm gonna call that a little bit early. But that's the first kind of hour or so of Gabriel Knight. It's pretty close to the original game so far. I have been told through reviews and whatnot that there are some later stage changes, so I'll be excited to kind of see those. But yeah, we'll play this for a while, and then after that, if I'm feeling up for another Sherlock Holmes game today, if not, mysteriously have a new video game to try out. Somehow I got that in my inbox. We'll see how that goes. I also actually picked up Kathy Rain, which is a new one that's done in a retro style. So it's done that kind of same pixelated 320 by 200 group, but it was done 3 years ago. And it's specifically pitched to be kind of Nancy Drew style, but with a slightly harder edge. So that's also kind of on my radar. So I have a lot of other mystery games you can go through that I haven't played yet. I kind of wanted to cut my teeth on this, see how I felt about this, and I feel like there's some interesting stuff to talk about, even for a game like Gabriel Knight. So I think I have a few different mystery games to try out. So we'll keep them rolling along, and otherwise, I will catch you guys later.